I knew that 2 o'clock press conference would add up to an entire ball of nothing, and it was. All that he said was, it'd be really nice if people would follow the protocols because we don't have a lot of positive tests, but we do have some, and that's too many. And we're not going to stop this tour. So can you please wipe off the damn rakes? Stop touching the flagpole. Practice social distancing. Wear a mask. And by the way, if you're going to take the private PGA Tour charter, which we're making available, we're going to be testing you. And I don't mean like the private island UFC testing. I'm talking about the real deal. Why is PGA so insistent on continuing its tournaments? Why are we hearing from the mayor of Miami that fans may be allowed in Marlins Park? Why are we hearing in Texas where cases are spiking around the country? We had our most cases of COVID-19 ever yesterday. Life's beginning to continue. What's the upside? What's the downside? What's the reality? The upside is that the economic impact of the shutdown has been long, far-reaching, and disastrous for millions and millions of people. Unemployment claims alone today, another 1.5 million people. Every week, there's another 1.5 million people filing for unemployment. That doesn't even count those who don't file, who have been furloughed or just laid off. Businesses have started to do business again, but they're finding their expenses are up and their revenue is down. When your expenses are up and your revenue is down, you cut your expenses. Are you going to cut your increased cleaning expenses? Are you going to lay more people off? Are you going to make your product in a different way that is more shoddy, less costly? You're going to do something or you're going to be out of business. Businesses have decided that there is an acceptable level of positive tests, an accepted level of hospitalizations, and then an accepted level of deaths. The reason why people are accepting these levels and these spikes have not caused another shutdown is that it's younger people, for the most part, who are now getting sick. And younger people get sick. Many times they're asymptomatic, and then many times it goes away. Ignoring the fact that if you are positive, though asymptomatic, you can spread that to someone who would not be asymptomatic. But the juice is worth the squeeze for every one of these businesses, including the business of sports. On March 11th, Rudy Gobert tested positive. The NBA shut down. On June 25th, Derek Jones Jr. of the Heat tested positive, and the NBA continues toward its bubble start on July 30th in Orlando. On March 12th to 13th, there were no positive tests. MLB shut down spring training. On June 25th, players are testing positive left, right, and center. On we go. The WWE, in the name of you, the fan. I love that. Vince McMahon said, we owe it to our customers. We've got to take the risk. They've had an outbreak. Dozens of people within WWE, but the show must go on. What's the downside? The downside is that these sports start and these positive tests don't end. So instead of getting these people who are testing positive, these players and athletes, and having them recover in time, like the 3 members of the Sacramento Kings, they'll recover in time having been quarantined and get better and test negative. They will be ready to play. The downside is what happens if this had been during the bubble. I don't know how many more times I can say it, but I'll say it maybe in a different way. Everyone's all over me today. McAfee, the whole world, over my take of LeBron James having those practices, those against the rules practices, where they definitely weren't social distancing, giving them a huge competitive advantage. What's going to happen if 10 members of the Lakers test positive once they're back for the preseason? Well, I guess they'll separate. They won't get to practice while their teams do. And then they'll start the playoffs and start to try to win a title. What happens if they all test negative, but then 4 days into the season, they test positive? Will the NBA shut down? I think the NBA and MLB have committed to playing no matter what. Rod Manfred today spoke to the Associated Press, a fellow Horace Mann alum, Ronald Blum, I assume, and said, we owe it to our fans to get back on the field, and we owe it to our fans to get better, to stop the arguing, the bickering. We, and when he said we, he meant owners, players, the union, the commissioner, the commissioner's office. We owe it to all of you to get on the field. No mention of the fact that financially it is imperative to get to a postseason. No mention of the huge spike of positive tests within baseball. No mention of the 100-page protocol in baseball that will not be followed. I promise you that. Why? Because that's not good business to mention that. You understand what's going on politically with this virus. It's not good business for the right to buy into Corona because the best hope for the right is a strong recovering economy. I get it. It's positive for the left to point out to the right that they have not handled Corona properly and the economy is suffering not because of Corona, but because of how it was handled. Look at other countries and the progress they've made. Both sides are using this politically. Sports, they're using it economically. That is a very big difference. How does this end? This ends in disappointment. The disappointment that I will feel when I end up being right. That there will be a problem with the restart of the different sports, NBA, NHL, MLB, and it will make things worse, not better. Those are team sports. Do I think it's smart for the PGA to continue their tournaments? The answer is no, I don't. But if there's any sport that can continue where you can monitor a smaller number of people on the tour, making sure they're following protocols, then I am fine with PGA. I'd prefer them to tee off alone. I prefer them to have no caddies. There is a call for the PGA to stop its tour. So you want to talk to Samson? My final answer is that if the players continue to not follow protocols and they are caught not following protocols, there will be a different decision going forward in the PGA. Pay attention, MLB, pay attention, NBA, and pay attention, NHL. You are putting your sport in the hands of your employees, the players, and counting on them to do what's right.